Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our UNSW Medicine Information Evening. We're really pleased to be speaking with you today. We're going to be covering content that's relevant no matter whether you're applying as a domestic or international student, but what we share is mostly relevant to those who are thinking about applying this year to start next year. So if you happen to be a little bit younger or not planning to apply till later, we're still really pleased to have you, but just keep in mind that things do change a little bit year to year. My name's Jacob Berry. I'm part of the UNSW Future Students team, and I work really closely with people who are thinking about studying in medicine and health. I'm going to be hosting the session, but you'll also be hearing from Professor Nalini Partha, who's an important part of the medicine team, from Cody Wem, our resident expert on the admissions process and pathway options. You'll also be hearing from Anna, who is a second-year student at a rural clinical campus, and from Sophie, who is a fourth-year student and the president of our Medicine Student Society. Along the way, you can also ask us questions through Microsoft Teams. We'll answer as many of those as we can towards the end, and we also have a few advisors replying in the chat. I'll also mention that the session will be recorded and shared afterwards, and we will add closed captions to that video. Before we get into our session, it's important that we acknowledge country. If you're joining us from overseas and you're not so familiar with this practice, it's important because this continent that we call Australia is actually home to the world's oldest continuing living culture, and sovereignty of land was never ceded. So I respectfully acknowledge the Bedigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land where I am on our campus, which you can see on the screen. And I also pay my respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any First Nations people who are joining us tonight. Now, I wanted to start us off with a quick snapshot of UNSW. We're a university with a really strong reputation, which is not just something for our community to be proud of, but it means a lot to employers as well. So we are a top university worldwide. QS, which is one of the major respected ranking systems, places us at 43rd in the world. Our graduates are some of the most employable out there. The Australian Financial Review has recognised us as the most employable university in the country for 4 years running. We also have a strong reputation for innovation, with more startup founders having studied at UNSW than anywhere else. And our medicine and health faculty specifically also has a really strong reputation. It's one of the best in the world, also recognised by those QS rankings. Our research is world-class, particularly in areas like cancer, neuroscience, mental health, addiction, infectious disease, and non-communicable diseases. Our medicine degree that we're talking about tonight has been the most in-demand degree in the state for 6 years running. And we also have our incredible new Randwick Health and Innovation Precinct, which is a $1.5 billion project which joins UNSW up with 4 hospitals in Randwick. We are a faculty of medicine and health, and we know now more than ever that we need a range of health professionals, clinicians, and otherwise to prepare for the future of health. We're obviously here to talk about medicine, but I also wanted to show you some of the other degrees at UNSW where our graduates are really critical in driving better health outcomes. So in the clinical space, you can study at UNSW to become an exercise physiologist, a physiotherapist, a dietitian, a pharmacist or an optometrist, and then outside of this, careers like biomedical engineering, public health, medical and vision sciences, they all play really key roles as well. So I'd really encourage you to also consider some of these fields as well. So that's all from me for now. I'm excited to introduce Professor Nalini Partha, who is the Associate Dean Education Innovation in the Faculty of Medicine and Health. She is an awarded educator and researcher and plays a key role in the medicine degree. Nalini.
Thank you for that introduction, Jacob. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about our Bachelor of Medical Studies and Doctor of Medicine program. Our program is 6 years long and it's divided into 3 phases, during which we will focus on developing your knowledge, clinical skills, and very importantly, your attributes, those qualities that will make for an effective and safe doctor. In phase 1 of our program, we focus on the biomedical and social sciences. It is based on clinical scenarios and it's framed around the scenario where students will be learning alongside their second year students, establishing a mentorship relationship lasting the duration of the degree, and preparing you to work in multidisciplinary clinical teams. Our students work very closely with their academic and clinical teachers, like myself. They are in the hospital from the beginning of year 1, where they get acclimatized to communicating with patients and communicating with other health professionals. In years 3 and 4, that's the phase 2 of our program, it is really based around integrated clinical courses. We have a weekly clinical case, and in any week, students will spend some time on campus, but at least 3 days of the week in hospitals. In year 4 of our program, the students complete an independent learning project, and some of them complete an honors degree. The final 2 years we call phase 3 of the program. It is the clerkship years. In these years, students are based at our clinical school campuses, in community healthcare clinics, in GP practices. Students rotate through the various medical specialities such as general practice, emergency medicine, surgery, and pediatrics. Many students also choose to complete rural electives and also the optional overseas elective during this time. The ILP year is our year-long research project on a topic of your choice. In this year, you will work closely with a research team at one of our schools or institutes associated with the faculty. In this year, you will acquire research skills that will keep you up to date as medicine evolves. Importantly, in this year, you also acquire additional valuable skills applicable to clinical medicine and not only to research, such as dealing with uncertainty, decision-making, and balancing multiple priorities. In year 4, there is the option to complete an honors project. This engages you in creating new knowledge that often leads to presentations at scientific conferences or even a publication. The ILP is the main reason why UNSW Medicine is 1 year longer than other options in New South Wales. This gives you a competitive advantage that will make your journey to specialty colleges much smoother and much more streamlined. Medicine is a journey based on a continuum of learning that begins with the MD program and continues throughout your career into internship, residency, specialty training, and of course then into what we call lifelong learning, so that you adapt and keep up to date as medicine and health changes in the future. If bonded, you will need to complete a 3-year placement in any area of workplace within 18 months of graduation. You will also have the opportunity to explore various specializations during your degree through placements, clerkships, selectives, and electives. Some of these are listed here and include specialities such as general practice, internal medicine, surgery, and so on. You also will have exposure to non-clinical disciplines such as public health and research. You may be considering the differences between the undergraduate and postgraduate medicine. From my perspective, the main difference is the entry point, but both still result in the Doctor of Medicine being awarded at the end. In the UNSW undergraduate medicine program, you have the unique opportunity to develop academic skills and, importantly, to learn in hospital and community placements from the very beginning of year 1. These placements are integrated into each year so that you develop over the 6 years of the program into an integrated member of the clinical team that is of value and is valued. equipped to be a safe and effective doctor. Our teaching sites include the Wallisworth building at the Kensington Biomedical Precinct. We are uniquely co-located with the Prince of Wales, the Royal Hospital for Women, and the Sydney Children's Hospital. The two precincts will merge following the completion of the Acute Services Building and the Health Translation Hub. We also have clinical campuses at Prince of Wales, St. Vincent's, St. George, and Sutherland, southwestern Sydney, and the rural clinical campuses. Our network services 40% of Sydney's population. Our rural clinical campuses includes Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie on the north coast, Griffith, Wagga Wagga, and Albury on the south of the state. Most of these campuses have open days planned in April and May, so if you are interested and are in those areas, I'd really encourage you to go along and visit these. Medicine is an opportunity to impact the health of our nation and to impact communities and societies of the future. And we really hope that you would be joining us in the next year.
Nalini, thanks so much for talking us through the detail of our medicine degrees and sharing what that professional pathway looks like. Now that we know a little bit more about the degree, we're going to learn about how to actually get in. So Cody Wem, who is coming up now, looks after our whole undergraduate cohort at UNSW. She also has a long history working in medicine. So she's an absolute expert on the admissions process and pathway options, which she's going to take us through right now.
Thanks so much, Jacob. So the application process is a little different for our domestic and international applicants. So we'll cover them separately, starting with our domestic students. A domestic student is anyone who is an Australian or New Zealand citizen, an Australian permanent resident or permanent humanitarian visa holder. We have 4 steps to applying. First up, you need to sit the UCAT ANZ. Then you'll need to apply through our medicine application portal and submit your UAC preferences. These both close on the 29th of September. Then, if you are successful, you will be invited for an interview held in November, December in 2023. So we have 2 applications you need to submit, which is the medicine application portal and UAC, and then we have 3 selection criteria, which we'll get into a little bit later on. So your selection rank, your UCAT ANZ score, and the interview. So your selection rank is your ATAR plus any eligible adjustment factors, which for medicine would be through UAC's Educational Access Scheme. As you can see on the slide, we have our median and lowest selection ranks for those who received an offer this year to provide an indication of the scores required for entry next year. UNSW doesn't have guaranteed entry scores, so use these as an indication. So for our local scores, our median in 2023, 99.75, our lowest, 97.05. For our rural entry, we had a median of 98 and lowest 91.55. Here at UNSW, we have no prerequisite subjects, but we do assume that you have received a Band 4 in English to help you communicate and research effectively. Chemistry is also recommended, but if you haven't studied it, don't worry. If you are eligible for the Educational Access Scheme, EAS, your ATAR will be adjusted, but no other adjustment factors are accepted for medicine. Next up, we have the UCAT ANZ, which is the Clinical Aptitude Test. Again, the median and lowest scores from 2023 will give you an idea of what might be required for 2024 entry. For our local students, the median was 3160 and lowest 3020. And for our rural entry, median 2730 and lowest 2530. So there are no medical questions. It is a computer-based test done at Pearson VUE testing centres. There are multiple sessions available throughout July and early August across Australia and overseas. So results are given immediately after the test. There are 5 unique sections, individually timed, one right after the other. UNSW does not include the situational judgment mark, so we just take 4 of those sections. We don't recommend any third-party preparation courses, as these can in fact be detrimental to your performance. Free practice questions and helpful resources are all available on the official UCAT ANZ website. So we advise you to register for the UCAT ANZ even if you're unsure about medicine. We really want you to keep your options open. Next up is the interview. So this is intended to get to know you as a person. It's a structured interview over a limited time. There are 2 interviews, usually 1 doctor and 1 member from our medicine and health community. Again, that interview coaching is not recommended and is easily detected, which is going to be detrimental to your performance. So we've got no trick questions. Just be honest if you want to do your best. Receiving an interview is competitive. So for the 2023 intake, we had 2,290 locals applications submitted, and we were able to interview 482 of them. So the overview of the timeline. UCAT ANZ registrations are already open and close on the 17th of May. We recommend booking in ASAP. UAC and MAP applications open in April but don't close until late September. UCAT ANZ exams are sat between July and August, and our open day is highly recommended for everyone to come along to is on the 2nd of November. From then November through January, we conduct interviews. We used to talk about applying for bonded or unbonded places. Now everyone is automatically considered for both based on competitiveness. You'll receive an unbonded place if eligible, otherwise a bonded place if you are still admitted to the degree. You can see on the screen how many places are available for the 2023 intake. We had 57 bonded and 143 unbonded. Places are distributed across Kensington, Port Macquarie and Wagga Wagga campus. If you indicate that you would like to be considered for any of the 3 campuses, you are competing for a larger number of places and have a higher chance of success. However, you must be open to studying at those campuses. For our special admission schemes, we have the Lateral Entry Scheme, which is for our UNSW medical science students. They would apply in their 2nd year of medical science as normal. Their core medical science grades are assessed instead of their ATAR and WAM. The top 10 applicants are selected, complete their 3-year BMed MC, then complete an honours year, and then complete the 3 remaining years of the medical program. Up to 10 places are available, so it is extremely competitive. Please don't choose the medical science degree unless you are passionate about the medical sciences and potential career options and are happy to graduate with that program. Next up, we have our Indigenous Entry Scheme. So this is available for Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders. They can apply for a 3-week pre-medical program in November through Nuragili, the UNSW Centre for Indigenous Programs. Successful applicants will then continue on to our medical program. We also have the Rural Entry Scheme. This is for applicants who have lived in a defined rural area, and they will be considered under this scheme. When you apply through Medicine Application Portal, our MAP, please make sure that you select the Rural Entry Scheme. Students who are successful through RES are guaranteed their campus selection. We have the Gateway Entry Scheme. So that is for students who have attended a disadvantaged metropolitan school identified by UNSW Gateway and live in a socio-economic area. There are up to 10 places available for these applicants each year. Alternative pathways. You can always apply again next year with a new UCAT ANZ and interview. You could get a head start on another degree. Your results in at least 0.75 full-time equivalent study will be considered along with your selection rank. Minimum requirements that are your secondary school qualification component must reach an ATAR of 96 or 91 rural or equivalent. And your tertiary studies component must reach an equivalent of 70 WAM. Once the applicant has met both of these requirements, the best of algorithm would apply, and the qualification with the highest selection rank would be used as the final selection rank for that medicine admissions process. Note, you still need to sit the UCAT ANZ every subsequent year you apply. You could also consider the lateral entry scheme through the UNSW Bachelor of Medical Science. You could apply for postgraduate medical schools at other universities. Or you could even try out another clinical or medical degree or other option. Next up, we have our international applicants. So it is a similar 4 steps to apply. You need to sit an admissions test. You can choose the UCAT ANZ or the ISAT, which is our International Student Admissions Test. You apply to UNSW either through UAC International if you're completing an Australian qualification or IB, or otherwise use UNSW Apply Online. You also need to complete your medicine application portal application, and then there are interviews. Please note that the dates are different for our international applicants. You'll need to sit an admissions test early enough so that your results are available before the 30th of November. Like any applicants, we'll also consider academic merit. In 2023, the minimum entry requirements to be considered, which might give you an indication of what might be required in 2024. These median and lower scores from the admissions tests will also give you an indication of what you'll need to aim for both the UCAT, ANZ and ISAT scores. You can see the UCAT and ISAT scores on the screen. For the median, 72735 and lowest 2530. For ISAT, median 117, lowest 177, lowest 165. We also have minimum English language requirements. So that is a minimum of 7.0 in IELTS and 6.0 in each subband. For our TOEFL scores, we have 94 overall with a minimum of 25 in writing, 23 in speaking, listening, and reading. Getting into medicine is a competitive process, but if you are determined, it shouldn't be a question of if you're going to get in, but when.
Cody, thanks so much. There's definitely a lot to take in there. But like I said, you'll be able to rewatch this session. All of the information's on our website, and you can also get in touch with our future student advisors at any point, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions and talk through your specific circumstances. In the meantime, please do keep sending through those questions in Teams. And just give a little thumbs up to any questions that are in there that you particularly want answered so that we can get to those ones first. Next, we're going to hear from some current students in our medicine program. So Anna, up first, is a second-year student. She studies at our Wagga Wagga Rural Clinical Campus. So she couldn't be in the room with us today, but she was still really excited to share her experiences studying in the degree and going through the Rural Entry Scheme. Here she is.
So hi everyone, my name is Anna and I am currently in my second year studying the Bachelor of Medical Studies and Doctor of Medicine in Wagga Wagga. So a little bit about me. I grew up on a farm in the New South Wales Riverina region, and we did have a lot of horses growing up, so I was quite interested in biology as well and thought that the next logical step for me would be to do veterinary medicine. However, after moving to Wagga in mid-primary school, I began to realise the health inequities that were experienced in the more rural towns. And for example, my experience, we would have trips to Wagga and Sydney for my brother's healthcare appointments, and these were just an adventure. But later on, realising that this travel to receive healthcare can put a significant financial, emotional, and physical toll on families. And that really drove me to pursue rural practice. So I'm hoping to undertake rural generalism once I've graduated, which is kind of like a rural GP in a sense. You get to have the emergency experience in the hospital as well as the GP clinical experience. And I'm hoping to do that with a specialisation in obstetric care. So a little bit about my journey to medicine generally. It was quite a long one. I was lucky enough to receive a couple of interviews straight from high school, but things didn't really work out there. And in hindsight, the opportunity to study medical science at UNSW in Sydney was a really great chance to I guess, kind of build on my experiences, learn a lot more about the medical field itself, and really meet a great bunch of people. So I lived in college for 3 years, the whole 3 years of my degree at New College, and I've been able to pick up a few casual jobs here and there, and still able to keep in touch with some of the fantastic people that I've met across my time. So a little bit about what phase one in medicine is all about. So um, a really great experience in Wagga is having the close-knit cohort. So we are one of 4 rural clinical schools, I believe. So we've got the Wagga, Albury, Port Macquarie and Coffs Harbour campuses in addition to the Sydney campus. And we're able to stay really connected through a great bunch of activities that are run by UNSW MedSoc. So we all travel up to Sydney once a year for the MedSoc Ball, and we also have a bunch of activities run through our Rural Allied Health and Medical Society club. So that's our rural health club. And we run rural high school visits, Indigenous education activities. And that's a really great chance for some of the rural cohort to become a bit more connected amongst the campuses themselves. So a little bit more about phase one, we do something called scenario-based learning. And what that is first and second year, so they're split into 4 terms each, and each covers a different body system. So for example, BGDA last year, that's called Beginnings, Growth and Development A. We studied a lot about pregnancy and fetal development. And so within each of those terms, they're split into scenarios. So for example, BGDA had one scenario about 2 women who were both pregnant, but they were both in very different social circumstances. And then another scenario was more about assisted reproduction. So the scenarios will cover physiology, pathology, all your science-based things, as well as more of the socio-cultural circumstances and patient management. So it's a really holistic way of learning everything that you'll need to know based on that body system subject. And also this happens through a tutorial or scenario group system. So we have 2 of those that are about 2 hours each week. And it's kind of like a tutorial that you might experience in, say, another university degree. Another great highlight of phase one is that you get to be in hospital from year one. So studying out here in Wagga, we were in the hospital we're in the hospital once a fortnight, and we were learning our basic history taking, so patient interviewing, as well as basic examinations. So now in year 2, we're doing society and health. That's the first subject of year 2, and we're currently learning how to do respiratory examinations as well as doing those patient histories. Another great part of the phase is that first and second years will be working together. So in first year, the first 2 terms, you do just as first years, and then in the third and fourth term, you're mixed together as a cohort, and that's the same in second year. So might sound a bit complicated, but what it is, it just really helps having that support from the year above, and they can really guide you in what the assessments are like and allay any of those fears. I know I was a little bit overwhelmed finally getting into medicine last year, but it was great to have the support of those older students and just to say it's okay, like you can get through this. It's a really great community. So a little bit about what the rural campus life is like. So we have most of our lectures are delivered from Sydney for phase one, and we then have our scenario groups in person in Wagga. And sometimes we will also travel to Sydney for our anatomy practicals, and that's usually once a term. So that's a great chance to meet up with our Sydney cohort as well. It's really great having, I know I'm a little bit biased because I'm a local girl, but it's really great being here, having that close-knit community. There's probably about 70 or so of us from first year up to 60. And it's just a great chance to really get closer with everyone. We do have a mentoring program where the first years are set up, paired up with the 5th and 6th years, so they can kind of lead you through your assignments and what the medical student life will be like. But it's great because some of the 6th years, for example, they've just recently started internship, and they now teach us when we go into our hospital experiences once a fortnight. And we even play social netball together on the weekends, and even have trivia at the local pub on Thursdays. So it's really great to have that close-knit community. We even learn from the local clinicians right from first year, and have had the opportunity to witness procedures in hospital even back in first year when we were doing our cardiovascular subject. So we were able to go in and watch some angiograms, which I'm not sure if Sydney would ever get to experience that from that early on. And I thought it was quite a privilege to be able to do that. There's also a few other opportunities to volunteer in a clinical space. So we were simulation patients for ultrasound workshops, and we're even taught how to cannulate briefly by one of the registrars, which is something you probably don't actually learn until third year if you were doing it through university. So that was quite exciting. And I guess some of the really fun experiences about living in Wagga, I think some people probably get a bit concerned that it's too rural, but I assure you there are a range of different shopping experiences available if that's something you're interested in, as well as the cafes. There's so many different tourist opportunities in the area. So just last weekend, I went to one of the towns, Cootamundra, about an hour away, and went through the sunflower fields. There we've also got the Junee Licorice and Chocolate Factory nearby. And if you're into hiking, we've got a great, it's actually called The Rock, the town. So you can go hiking there as well. And we're also only a 1 hour flight from Sydney. So I think it's really great living here. And we were recently announced the 9th best beach in Australia. So that's a great thing to hit in summer. We do a lot of that during O Week. And we also have a range of different social events with our connection with Charles Sturt University, which is one of the major universities in town. And we also have another medical school nearby from Notre Dame as well. So everything from language classes to sport, social activities, orienteering, even golf is a big one. And I think some of the benefits of being a student in Wagga is that the rental prices are a lot cheaper. You can walk to uni if you'd really want to, and it only takes about a maximum of 10 minutes to get anywhere in town. And if that's rush hour, then it goes up to 20. So it's definitely a more relaxed lifestyle, I think, having had my 3 years studying in Sydney versus studying in Wagga. And I am loving every bit of it. And I just think if you are tossing up between going to the rural campus or going to the Sydney campus, I definitely advise to give rural a shot. And I know I'm biased, but Wagga is a great community. We have a great medical community, and I wish you all the best in your aspirations to medicine.
Thanks so much, Anna. I also grew up near Wagga Wagga, so I can definitely say firsthand what an awesome experience living rural is, and I would really encourage everyone to consider it. So next I get to introduce Sophie, who is in her 4th year of her medicine degree. She's also the current president of MedSoc, our Medicine Student Society. So we're lucky to be having her sharing a little bit about what that is like and what other experiences are like outside the classroom.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie, and as Jacob said, I'm one of the 4th year students at UNSW Medicine, and I've been fortunate enough to be the president for MedSoc, or the UNSW Medical Society, for 2023. So today you've heard a lot about the medicine degree itself, but today I'm going to be talking a little bit about student life at UNSW and what you can do outside of your medical degree. So the first thing to chat about is ARC, which is the student club which oversees all of the other student societies inside UNSW. So ARC encompasses many, many different things and different clubs, including clubs for dance, for sport, for dog appreciation, for food appreciation, almost anything you can think of. Furthermore, they have a really, really great team of volunteers who help support you not only in terms of your mental health and your social life, but also can help with social connections and community overall. So for example, you will see these people in yellow shirts at your O Week and at things such as Wellbeing Week. And maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think one of the best parts of the medical degree is MedSoc, or the UNSW Medical Society. We're a society which encompasses all of the students who study medicine, both in metro and rural campuses, and we focus on 3 main things. The first thing we focus on is advocacy. Here at UNSW Medicine, we are extremely fortunate to have a faculty who is very receptive to feedback and actively wants to know what students think of the program. Because of that, we as the UNSW Medical Society get to meet regularly and discuss any ideas students have about the course and any feedback they have. The second area we focus on in MedSoc is experiences. When we talk about experiences, we mean firstly social experiences, so things that will help you connect to your community, such as events where you can go out, meet people, events which are more chill, like you can play board games together, and more. The second type of event or experience that we do are professional development experiences, so teaching you how to do skills such as cannulation, such as suturing, those kind of events. And finally, we have wellbeing events such as origami night or events where you can help boost your mental health and feel connected to your community. Our final pillar that we focus on is community. So in medicine, it is a long and difficult degree in many ways, but one of the best parts of medicine is the community you're surrounded with. That's not only your peers in your year, but also older peers, your educators, and staff in hospitals. And in MedSoc, we make sure that everyone feels a part of the community and feels at home. So, one big focus for us in the medical society, as well as the medical faculty, is representation and support. There is a big focus on mental health and well-being, not only through a allocated well-being advisor, Catherine Marley, who is really great, but also through initiatives such as self-care days, which allow students to take time to look after their mental health and prioritise their mental health. Secondly, with assessments, there's a lot of support for getting ready for doing your exams, not only through academic events and support, but also through dedicated programs such as the peer-assisted study session programs, or PASS, where students are taught by older students or mentors in order to support them for their assessments. Thirdly, there's curriculum development. So there are lots of exciting things happening with redesigning the medical program, and faculty takes a lot of effort to ensure that student voices are represented in that. The fourth thing is clinical learning. So we've actually just launched our mentoring program where students from years 2 all the way up until year 6 are grouped together in order to help guide younger students through entering hospitals, learning what to do on the wards, etc. So there's a lot of support for clinical learning. The final thing is equity and diversity inclusion. So in MedSoc, we have women's officers, queer officers, Indigenous officers, you name it. We're really passionate about ensuring that everyone in our community not only feels supported and connected, but also feels like their issues and their voices are advocated for. One of the final things I'm going to chat about today are special interest groups. So some of you may have some inkling of what kind of medicine you might want to go into the future, but some of you might have no idea at all. So that's what these groups are for. These groups are part of MedSoc and help you explore different specialties such as cardiology, such as obstetrics, gynecology, and more. And these groups run lots of interesting workshops, talks, and mentoring programs to ensure that you can pursue whatever you're interested in. The final thing I'm going to talk about are performing arts groups. So I'm a little bit biased because I was in MedShow over the past couple years, but essentially what I want to talk about is that in medicine, you don't just have to do medical things. So medical students come together to perform in a musical, also known as MedShow, but there's also the Medical Musical Society, and they have things such as an a cappella group and a band. So that's a rapid fire shot through all the things you can do in medicine, but also outside of medicine. And I really look forward to seeing a lot of you in the future.
Awesome. Sophie, thanks so much. I think it's always really exciting for people to hear just how much they can get up to outside of the classroom. I also graduated from UNSW, so I know for a fact that what you've spoken about really barely scratches the surface. So now we're going to move into Q&A. We've got about 15 minutes to get through some of your questions, and we've had lots of them come through in the chat. So we may not be able to get through all of them. So just a reminder to please hit thumbs up on any of those questions that you want to hear answered first. And like I said earlier, anything that we don't get through tonight, our future student advisors are always really happy to answer at any time. All right. So maybe let's start off with an admissions question for Cody.
Sure.
This one is around bonded and unbonded places. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what the difference is?
Absolutely. So a bonded place means that you are bonded for a return of service. So the government is supporting your studies by allowing you to study the medical program, but that does mean that you need to return some service to a rural or regional area. So that is 18 months within your, or 3 years? Is it 3 years at the moment? Yep, 3 years within the first 18 years of your of completing your degree. A fun fact that I absolutely love is that the whole of Tasmania is counted towards that rural or regional area. So students can be in a metropolitan hospital in Hobart, and that would still count.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I think let's stay on admissions. Got a lot of questions coming through, particularly about the interview. So Nalini, could you tell us a little bit more about the interview? Is it medicine specific? Will there be questions based around medicine, or what does that actually look like for the students coming in?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Sophie may be able to add to whatever I say. But the idea of the interview is really to understand you as a person, your interests, what it is that motivates you, and how much you are suited towards a medical career. So it's looking at those kinds of attributes that you have and how we can develop it further to make you a safe and effective doctor. I think the best thing to think about in terms of the interview is, like Cody said earlier, don't try and go to any kind of prepping sessions. It's really about presenting yourself and telling us who you are and your experiences so that we can think about, are we able to shape you into that kind of doctor that will serve our communities? Sophie, you may have some other things to say.
Yeah, I would say that they don't ask you anything about medical knowledge. I definitely didn't come into the degree with any specialist medical knowledge. I would echo what Nalini said in terms of making sure that the interview is about who you are as a person and your motivation to study medicine. And really, if you come in with the right intentions and the right passion, that's really going to shine the most in your interview.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think we've had a few people ask questions around why they wouldn't go through a preparation program and why that actually would be detrimental. But I think that answers it exactly. You know, we're looking for some authentic, truthful insights into who you are as a person. So that's exactly what you're going to be doing by just telling us straight up. No one else can tell us that. So Nalini, maybe I'll come to you on this one. We have heard from someone who is interested in medicine, but they're tossing up a few different options around medicine, around health, around different options. Do you have any advice for people who are tossing up different options and how they can find what might be right for them?
Yeah, that is probably a very good question. And I think that many people considering medicine are equally considering all the other kinds of health professionals and related fields that they may want to be interested in. And that is natural, right? That's what we expect. If you want to serve the community, you want to help people in terms of their health, then you would be interested in a range of things. So how do you choose between medicine and the other professions? I would suggest the best thing is to try and speak to people who are professionals in this area. They would give you first-hand idea of what that scope of practice is. What does a day look like for them? What was their study like? How effective do they think they are in their practice? What are the things that they wish they could have done? Ask them all those questions, and that will help you decide. And you know what? I think even when you get into medicine, you may not be 100% sure that this is the right profession that you've chosen, but we've got many other professions, and you get to actually speak to lots of people. You get to understand the scope of medical practice. And you get to also understand the scope of other people's practice as well. So there is that opportunity to learn and grow. You may not know 100% when you join up and sign the medicine for medicine, but the best thing is to speak to people, understand what they experience of the profession is, and then as you come into the program, you'll actually learn a lot as we go through. I think often students come thinking medicine is one thing, even after they've spoken to lots of people, and then as they go through the hospitals, the placements, seeing what the practice is like, they actually develop their knowledge. But because they were interested in people and health and being effective in that space, they develop into that kind of doctor that we all admire and want them to be.
Very wise advice there. Sophie, I'm wondering if you can add on to that a little bit by telling us how you ended up in the medicine degree.
Sure. So, I'm not one of those people who always wanted to be a doctor, but I think for me, it was really what Nalini said about seeing people in my life who were doctors and eventually learning from them. And I think it is difficult to narrow down from the range of medicine and health degrees. And I guess for me, thinking back to leaving year 12, you still don't exactly know, and I think that's okay. And I would really encourage people to apply for a broad range of degrees. And to have a broad range of experiences learning about those different degrees. I think very much you start your medical degree and you learn and you grow your love for being a doctor as well. So again, if you're not 100% sure, I would say just give it a shot and yeah, keep your options open.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got a lot more questions around admissions things, but I want to jump over to a bit more about the degree itself, and then we can come back to some of those ones. So Sophie, this is another question for you. Someone's wondering what the workload is like. So how much time are you spending studying each day? Is work-life balance possible in medicine?
That's a good question, not just for me, but I think for all doctors out there. But I would say that there's a really, really good work-life balance that you're able to develop in UNSW Medicine. Whether that's through doing things through MedSoc for me, so I got to do a lot of social and extracurricular opportunities through MedSoc. But for me, it was also maintaining a job outside of my medical degree, as well as doing things such as social sport. I think you definitely are able to strike that balance, and it does take a bit of juggling, so it's not super easy. But yeah, I would say that it's definitely very manageable, and I think the best way to learn is by trying it yourself and getting advice from older peers and mentors, which really, really helped me figure out how to, schedule my life and make sure I could fit in leisure, work, study, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that is one of the most exciting things about the degree that you spoke about, that everyone is working in together at different year levels and bringing everyone else along the ride. Nalini, on that same question, does that resonate with most of the students that you're working with?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like for everyone, self-care and that balance is part of what you do as well as part of what other people do. And I think, Sophie, you'll probably agree with me that in our faculty, we try very hard to actually hear from students in terms of where their issues are and where there may be stresses and try to alleviate that. I think when you sign up for the medicine program, you actually sign into a community rather than thinking of there's faculty and there's students. We're all trying to work together, and we're trying to work together to develop that student to be a good and safe doctor so that they can help the community. And so we all are in this partnership together. I think that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Just to add briefly onto that, I think one thing is that we often discuss how you're not just a medical student at UNSW, you're also, a student, and beyond that, you're a person. And I think that in UNSW Medicine, there's a really big emphasis on that. So having your life beyond the medicine community within your uni, but also even beyond uni with your family, friends, and more.
Yeah, fantastic. And Nalini, maybe this is something that you might want to speak a bit more about. We're really excited that in our faculty, the people who are starting next year are starting alongside people who are studying to be physiotherapists and exercise physiologists and dietitians. What's the kind of benefit to that?
Yeah, that's a great question and such an opportunity for us in our faculty. So for the first time this year, we launched several new programs, the ones that Jacob mentioned: pharmacy, physiotherapy, exercise physiology, and dietetics. One of the great things about thinking about learning is that firstly, you learn with your community of your peers or other medical students for you. But the other thing is also learning with students who are learning other kinds of fields that are related to yours. So we kind of talk about this thing about interprofessional learning. It's really important in medicine and health, because when you're out in the community as a doctor, you're not actually working independently. You're working in a community of other healthcare professionals. So this opportunity in our faculty gives us the opportunity to actually embed that with our students. They're going to be working with teams of other students who are all learning together, but they're learning to be different healthcare professionals. And as they learn together, we get to appreciate what the other person is doing in their practice. But we also get to learn to work together as a multidisciplinary team. And that's what happens in hospitals, and also even if you're in general practice, you have to be communicating with other kinds of health professionals. And so really embedding that right from day dot with our students is a fantastic thing. But more than that, I think, Sophie said we all are people. And so this is just more kinds of people who are different. And so it just adds to that variety that you have in your life. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. I think definitely we need that in our health systems. We're hearing more from policymakers and from professional bodies that we need more integrated health systems. So very, very exciting part of the faculty here. We've got a question in here about the independent learning project. So Sophie, am I right that you would be in the process of doing that or have recently done that?
Yes, so I'm in my 4th year, which is your research year. And basically you have two options. You have your ILP or independent learning project, or doing an honours project. So I'm in the process of doing my honours project at the moment. It's very interesting. It's about pediatric burns, but essentially you can pursue any area that you're interested in and conduct research in that area. And I think it's a really great opportunity to not only learn about research skills, but pursue an area that you might be interested in the future. So essentially you have a year to conduct research, whether that's collecting patient data and analysing it, doing a retrospective study of data people have already collected, doing a lab-based study. There's many, many different options. But essentially you do the research, you write a paper, and you might get it published, which is also a very, very exciting part of the year.
Yeah, incredible. Melina, did you have anything extra on that?
I suppose the only other thing that I'd add on to that is to say that it gives you the opportunity to work with a team of people in a different way. So you learn a few different skills. For example, while you're doing research, you learn how to look at data. You may learn how to troubleshoot. You may learn to think about how you would communicate with different groups of people. So there's a whole lot of different skills that you would learn. And again, those skills are things that you would use later when you're in practice. So it does give you that exposure, but also it gives you that kind of exposure to think about whether academic medicine is something that you would be interested in the future. So there's a whole lot of things that you can do. And in the range of projects we have, it extends obviously to all the kinds of health projects that you would expect, but it also extends to those touch points that we have with other disciplines. For example, biomedical engineering may be something that is of interest, and there are projects around health and biomedical engineering that our students work with. So it's not just in our faculty that you get to work. You get to work anywhere across our campus.
Yeah, I've had a few friends go through the program, and when I talk to students now and they tell me the things that they're working on in that project, it's always absolutely mind-blowing. That you've got someone who's a current student and they're making a real difference and contributing to knowledge and solving big problems. Pardon me. I think we have a few minutes left, so we might come back to a few of those admissions questions. It sounds like we might have a few people in here who are a little bit earlier on in thinking about what subjects they might want to study in high school. Firstly, Cody, could you tell us, just remind us about the difference between assumed knowledge, prerequisites, how that all works at UNSW?
Yeah, absolutely. So traditionally, a prerequisite would mean that you have to have studied that subject in high school in order to receive an offer to study for that university degree. But UNSW doesn't have any prerequisites for any of our degrees, which is incredible, which means it takes the pressure off you in year 10 when you're picking your subjects. So we do have assumed knowledge, which means that the university lecturers and your anyone who's going to teach you at university is assuming that you do have that knowledge when you come into the program. So for medicine, it is only that band 4 in English, but we do recommend that you look at doing chemistry as well, as we do think that that's going to give you a bit of a head start in terms of your studies in medicine. So I guess my biggest advice around picking subjects is just to do what you're passionate about, do what you really enjoy and get your maximum ATAR. Because if you're studying subjects that you really enjoy, that means you're going to put more effort into them, you're going to be happier to study them, and you're going to, in the end, get a better mark because, you're happy to spend more time going over and learning those subjects.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. In my high school, I chose the subjects that I was excited about, and it worked out. I think it's really good advice. Sophie, someone's put a smiley face on this question, so I have to put it to you.
Sure.
Someone's curious what subjects you chose.
Yeah, that's a good question because I actually didn't do chemistry. So I did, I have to think back now. I did 3 units of English, 4 units of maths, I did 3 units of Latin and 2 units of economics. So as you can see, it's maybe not the typical chemistry, biology, but I really did love the subjects that I did. And that's the reason why I chose them. And I'd really encourage you, say if you're in year 10 or even in year 9 trying to pick your subjects, choose what you love. When I came to university, I did do a chemistry bridging course, which was biology bridging course, which is part of the medicine program that is developed I guess, to help students who haven't done year 11, year 12 chemistry and biology. But that wasn't anything I signed up for separately. It was just part of, I guess, first term of medicine. And I know friends who studied chemistry and biology who also did the same course, just to refresh a lot of concepts from high school. So those are the subjects I did. Again, maybe not the most typical subjects people might assume before doing medicine, but there were subjects that I was passionate about, and I'm really glad I did them in high school.
Yeah, fantastic. And then a year or two ahead, we've got people thinking about UCAT again, which I guess also applies to the international equivalents for applicants thinking about that. Cody, you mentioned that we really don't recommend kind of coaching programs or anything like that. So, Sophie, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how you approach that. How did you prepare for UCAT?
Yeah, I think obviously the UCAT is quite an intimidating exam, but my first advice would be to just learn about the structure of the exam, learn about the kinds of questions they ask, and do lots of practice. So the UCAT website has lots of practice papers that you can go through, and I think for me, the main thing was I would initially get a lot of questions wrong, which is very discouraging. But it's all about looking at the feedback they give and learning from your mistakes. So for me, that was like keeping a little journal of like, what kind of mistakes do I make? What kind of things do I want to work on? But again, it's a learning process, and it helps develop a lot of the skills that you will have in the back of your mind already. I think the UCAT is a challenging exam, but it is something that if you keep at it is very useful in developing a lot of your skills.
Yeah, very good advice. Thank you. We are almost at time, so I think I want to go along everyone and ask for a final little snippet of advice that you might have for these students. Nalini, did you want to start us off?
I didn't think of anything to say beforehand. I suppose my best advice to you is think about whether you really love to help people in terms of their health and just our communities in general. And then if you do, then definitely a career in medicine and health is of importance. And I would suggest just speak to many, many people who are practicing different in different scopes of practice so that you get your head around what it is that you are signing up for. That would be my best advice.
Yeah, good advice. I guess for me, I would say that I'm not fully done my medical degree, but I've really, really loved the 4 years so far. And I'd really encourage everyone who's considering to give it a shot and, have a go at the UCAT, work your hardest in year 12, and keep your options open because not only is medicine a great degree, I have lots of friends in other medicine and health degrees. And I think all of them have really, really great futures. So I really hope to see lots of you guys in the future at UNSW, either doing medicine or other degrees.
I'm going to be cheeky and have 2 little bits of advice.
Go for it.
So firstly, I would say when you're in year 11 and 12, we know that medicine is a super competitive program here at UNSW, but my main advice for year 11 and 12 is to keep the balance. So make sure that you're studying, but make sure that you're keeping up your extracurricular activities, because it's not just about keeping, your mind, in the books. It's all about keeping your mind healthy, and having those outlets outside of the classroom are super important. And, Sophie said that it continues all throughout your medical degree as well. So you want to keep up those passions outside of the classroom. And then my final piece of advice is, I think I said it earlier, if you are really, really passionate about medicine, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Apply everywhere, apply as many times as you need to, and if you want to be a doctor, then the time will come for you.
Amazing, thank you. So that does bring us to the end. That's all we have time for, but I do really encourage everyone to keep the conversation going with us. If you can, come along to our open day, which is on the 2nd of September. And like I said, do get in touch with our future student advisors. They are fantastic and always really happy to talk to you. A really big thanks is owed to Nalini, Sophie, and Cody. Thank you all so much. I think you've added a lot of insights for the people who've joined us tonight. Thank you. And finally, thanks for joining us, everyone out there. We wish you all the very best finishing off your studies this year, and all the very best for your applications, and hopefully we'll be seeing you on campus soon enough. Thank you.